Welcome to another Cup of Joe. I'm your host, Joe Tumalo, CEO of PG Partner, with my awesome guests. I know I say that about every guest, but they're like family, as we say in the Italian world. Jenny Kleintop and Douglas Kleintop. Sorry, Doug and I have only been working together 5 years. Welcome, guys. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for
Thanks for
having us, Joe.
having us. It's awesome.
Yeah, two super smart, nice, kind, thoughtful, what else? People, fundraising, brilliant experts, and unique in their skill sets. I would say there's not. Jenny has her own practice, philanthropy ops, and I'll let you, Jenny, tell people what you do because I won't do it justice.
Oh, absolutely. I work with small to mid-sized nonprofit organizations, all in their database, and operations, and really strengthening that to partner nicely with the front end to improve their fundraising results.
Boy, smart brevity, awesome. And there's not a lot of consultants out there doing that. I've been referring Jenny to a lot of clients and friends, and she's really been doing well. And Mr. Kleintop has been quite an asset to us here in my business over the years. He is senior leadership at University of Delaware. That's in Delaware, right?
That is in Delaware. That's right.
And he's used to my humor. And but Doug has similar skill sets, I would say, right? Really smart. He has helped a lot of our clients. How would you say, again, you could say it better than I, how would you say you help our clients and others?
Yeah, I think it's really just trying to understand where they're at with primarily their major giving or their plan giving, but really more holistically, their individual giving programs, and figuring out where they're at and where they would like to get to and helping them figure out a path to get to that point. So just ways to be able to strengthen what they already are doing.
Cool. Well said. You guys are so good. So what do you want to talk about? I know you have a lot of value to bring to the audience. What's on your mind here today?
Yeah, I think, Joe, one of the topics that Jenny and I often love to talk about is how we communicate. There's so important to both major giving success and plan giving success is how we communicate, how we talk about prospects, how we manage our portfolios. And so, Jenny and I were just talking the other day about, how do we do that, right? When we're working with organizations, what do we recommend they do to make sure that everybody is part of that conversation? So again, there's specific meetings that we always talk to clients about recommending that we've, I think, benefited ourselves in each of the organizations that we work with or work for. And Jenny, you want to talk a little bit about kind of what those meetings are that we really would recommend to organizations that they include as part of their weekly or monthly schedule of meetings?
Yeah, absolutely. And the great thing about this is since I come at it from the data and ops side, and Doug comes at it from the frontline major gift plan giving side, we're able to partner nicely together. And we have these interesting conversations, Joe. I'm sure you can imagine our household in the conversations we have going back and forth, front end, back end, which I never like to say I'm the back end of anything because I always think of a horse. So co-partner, right? Co-partner, Joe. But we often talk about how we necessarily can't 100% understand each other's side, but if we work together nicely, we can help each other out. So when we talked over the years about how do we do that from a prospecting to get more stronger prospects, we said the type of meetings that really you want to have at your organizations is there's prospect strategy sessions, and then there's portfolio review sessions. So have you heard the difference between the two, Joe?
No.
So when we defined it, strategy is more led by leadership. It's more talking about your proposals, opportunities in the pipeline. It's more about who you need at the table to make that ask. And prospect management or ops is at the table helping support those conversations, but really it's leadership help driving those conversations.
Yeah.
Whereas portfolio review sessions is more led by prospect management or ops team members. It's usually one-on-one. It's usually diving into your portfolio and saying, well, how many prospects do you have at identification or qualification? Like, what's your balance? Do you have all your activity in the CRM? Like, it's more focused on individual portfolios where strategy is more team oriented.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I think is really important as organizations think about having these meetings, and Jenny talked about this, is making sure all the right people are at the table. Prospect strategy sessions should not just be a conversation with the front line. It should be a conversation that includes appropriate members of the operations team or prospect management and research team. It's also something that for a smaller organization I think it's really important to have the leadership of the organization there as well. Because it's, they're oftentimes going to play a critical role in how we move prospects through to solicitation. And so it's really, I think the more minds around the table during these meetings, the better. It offers a lot more perspectives, and it also makes everybody feel included in the process, which is, I think, really critical.
Would you ever have a board development committee member?
I think
Somebody
you
that gets
could.
fundraising and
Yeah, I think, one of the things with prospect strategy meetings that I think is really important is that you go in with a solid agenda. You have specific names that you want to talk about. And I think, you look at those names and think about who are the right people to be part of that conversation. And it could be a board member. And I think that's a great suggestion, Joe, that, maybe a board member comes in and has information they can provide, or maybe they're part of the overall strategy. So I think for organizations with boards that are active in their development efforts, it's certainly a great way to include them in some of those conversations.
Yeah, and these will be really prospects that are further along in the moves management cycle. So more people who are in that cultivation later. And it's good to prep all of your gift officers, say, bring your 5 top prospects to the meeting. And bring what your last step was and what your next step is and what you're thinking about asking. Because just because you're assigned to that name doesn't mean you may be the one asking, or you may be the only one asking, right? As Doug was mentioning, you may bring the board member along, right? And they may have insights to say like, okay, here's really how we want to plan, or here's insights into how to make that ask work. And then from the data side, having us there is we could say, let me deep dive more, do more research, because maybe your ask amount, maybe they have more potential. So how can we support you in that?
guys, this is great, but we are slammed. I've got so much work. We have an event coming up in 3 weeks. I have this to do. I have that to do. We're short staffed. This sounds like so much work. And oh my gosh, every month, 2 meetings a month. This is crazy. And the meetings are going to drag on and on and on. Great idea, guys. But wake up, the real world.
People are busy, Joe. You're exactly right. There's not enough hours in the day. And what's so frustrating is what we see often kind of gets ignored is the focus on prospects, right? Whether it's reaching out to prospects, scheduling meeting with prospects, or just having strategy discussions about prospects. And yet this is where most of the revenue will come from. So yes, it takes time. Our suggestions are, have an agenda. If it's a 60-minute meeting, stick to 60 minutes. Make sure someone is facilitating that discussion and keeping the conversation on target with what it is you're talking about. But stick to it, because again, these conversations are what's going to lead to really exciting outcomes for your organization. So yes, it takes a few hours out of your month, but I think it's time very well spent.
Awesome. And that goes back, talk a lot about this book, Smart Brevity. I highly recommend it. And you guys both, when you introduce yourselves, you incorporated the smart brevity. How do I get my message across quickly, but in a meaningful way? And I remember years ago, it was the owner of the Sixers, and he had all these books out, business books out, and he would talk about stand-up meetings back when everybody was going to the office. So if we have a weekly meeting, it's a stand-up meeting. Go into the conference room, stand up, no sitting. It's 20 minutes and we're out, right? I love that. So maybe it's 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And you make it short. You make it short enough that's like, there's no way we can do that. Okay, let's try it.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, when people are busy, right, and talking about all the million things they have to do, if you make it targeted, if you say we're not going to spend more than 1 or 3 minutes on a prospect and keep it going, it really does not need to take that long. And the key is ask targeted questions to get in and get out, because that's the whole purpose of it. It should be strategy to help drive that next movement. So what are some of the, like Doug, what are some of the questions that people can ask during these meetings?
Well, I think it's, you mentioned it earlier, Jenny, is, tell us kind of where you're at with this prospect. What are you stuck on? What is your next step? Really asking gift officers and to think ahead of time about what that next step is. so they can share that at this meeting and give something for people to be able to react to. So again, it's doing the thinking often outside of the meeting, coming to the meeting prepared, and giving everybody the opportunity to kind of provide additional thoughts or feedback on what your plan might be.
Awesome.
Does that help, Joe? Does that help lighten your pressure of all the other stuff you have going
Yes,
on?
thank you. And I wasn't trying to make fun of people. They are busy. We know it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
We go
yeah,
in, and
yeah.
as we're observers going into these places, it's
100%.
crazy. It's like, I don't know how they do it. We talked earlier about how we're all under a lot of tension and stress,
Yeah.
and especially in fun, it's tough. So
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to be whatever, but it was
Okay.
just, yeah, thank you for that. So what are the key takeaways for our audience?
Yeah, I would say, commit to putting these meetings on the calendar, both the prospect management or prospect strategy session, as well as your portfolio management meetings. Really kind of think through ahead of time the agenda, what it is you want to accomplish during both of those meetings, and be thinking about who are the key people you want to be attending those meetings, and be inclusive. Try to include folks that, again, are going to have various perspectives and will feel very much engaged in the process by being at those meetings. So commit to it, make them happen, and stick with it. Because again, it's easy to kind of fall off track and move away from these meetings, but yet they're so important to our success and development.
Awesome. Wow. Anything else you want to add to that, Jenny? Tough to do,
No, I
but
just say track the progress. Like
yeah,
if you go in there and talk about your prospects, okay, well, someone like, especially on the data ops side, should put some kind of analysis in place to say, did that help move those
Yep.
prospects forward? Because if it did, it's a good worth of our time. If not, we need to adjust these meetings to make it more meaningful.
test, always test. It's awesome. Thank you. How can folks get in touch with you?
For me, I'm all over LinkedIn, so feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. I'm at Kleintop. I push a lot of content out. You can also subscribe to my newsletter straight from LinkedIn as well. I like to mentor at scale and give a lot of free stuff out to folks to help them along.
You do a great job. And Doug?
Yeah, please. I've got my website. It's individualgiving.com. Again, always looking forward to talking with individuals about how we can strengthen their individual giving programs. So feel free to go to individualgiving.com or email me at doug@individualgiving.com.
Awesome. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye.